Since I was very young, I can remember that I always read books about India. Fact or fiction didn't matter to me, as long as it was about this magic place.
People accepted her in this valley. I think that's wonderful. That is to accept these people, somebody coming from outside. Okay, I am Indian, they can accept me. But people coming from there and putting their children's life into her hands, it's not easy task. This has been a long journey for her.
I suppose the biggest thing that I can always remember is my father passed away when I was 8, and I was the apple of his eye, so naturally that was a big blow. And Mum used to be almost repetitious, saying, if it wasn't for your father, I wouldn't have had a child. I could have had a better life because now, your father's dead and I'm stuck. And I don't think she really realised how damaging that was. I battled at school. Because I wasn't good at it, I was like a lot of kids. I played up a bit because that hides the fact that you're not actually good academically. But overall, I wasn't a good student. And yet, I did have a burning ambition to be a nurse. So when I finished school, I failed high school. And of course, that meant that I couldn't go nursing because you had to have what was then called the junior certificate. And I didn't get that. So everyone thought it was over for me as far as going nursing, but I didn't think it was over for me. And I one day got it into my head to go and see a Member of Parliament and told him how much I wanted to be a nurse and that I'd do anything just to sit the exam, So he pulled it off for me. I went and sat the exam and I did well. Janjur colony, which was the first colony that I'd ever been to, I was really quite frightened because I hadn't seen leprosy patients that were actually deformed because they are kept in colonies because people won't have anything to do with them. My heart was pounding and I thought, what if I faint or throw up or make a total fool of myself and be so rude? But the people came out of the colony to greet us and you could see by their faces that they were just so excited. Because they don't have visitors. No one visits a leprosy colony. So it was very joyous. I wanted to be a nurse for a couple of reasons. One was that Mum sort of expected I would be, and I wanted to do whatever Mum asked so that she would perhaps change her tune a bit about me and that she would be proud of me, Now, this is going to be a challenge, getting a dressing on here. I went into nursing with this vision that I'd look after them, they'd come back from death and I'd be out on the hospital steps waving them goodbye and, I was a big hero. And, of course, the reality was most of my nursing was done in the medical wards and most of them went out feet first and none of that sort of happened at all, So, that was a bit of a come down. The next one's the really... I wear gloves for this girl because she is so bad. We wish very much we could fix this, but we just don't seem to be able to. get it right. And I think even if they amputated, it would just go back to this because it's a circulation thing. And that's why it's not healing. I'm not bothering with gloves, they're driving me mad. I can't catch anything, it's just a wound, you know. With leprosy, part of the condition that you get is this numbness. So if I'm near the cooking fire and a coal, you know, falls out and I step on it, then I won't feel that. So I don't do anything about it. So that burn will become like a tropical ulcer, and from that it could come into really bad gangrene and the foot may have to come off. It can go that badly for them. I usually come here for 2 days, and first day is a medical day and they all get to be seen and talk and so forth. Big rattle. She's got a big rattle. Any pain here, ask her? Second day we always give them some money and they organise the lunch. The men are all in there now cooking huge vats and that. And it's really an occasion, and the women will, you know, have the best sari they have on and we'll all sit down and have a feast. So I've been coming here for 16 years. I've never been sick yet, but I'm always a little bit, you know, say a quick prayer before I eat because it's the guys that are doing it, you know. I'm not saying anything against the guys, but I think their personal hygiene and mine are quite different. And so far, you know, we've managed to get away with it. They'd be horrified if they knew I said that. People have a lot of misconceptions about leprosy. I mean, it's less than 5% of all leprosy patients that are infectious. It's an airborne bacteria, leprosy, so it's, you know, it's everywhere. The experts probably would make this sound much more scientific, but the reality seems to be that leprosy strikes dark-skinned people who are malnourished and living in a hot climate. We still get the odd case in Australia up north, but of course it's, as soon as it's noticed, the medication can be given, and so, you know, we've long passed where there's deformity. Hindus believe that people who get leprosy have, in their past life, done some bad thing, and this is the punishment. We know now that it can be cured, but to them it is, you know, huge shame, and they are shunned immediately.
I see in these leprosy patients my mother, my father, my brother, my sister. My mothers come from a very high caste and very good family background. When she was 9, they said it is leprosy. My grandparents was terrified. So what they have done, took her 600 kilometers away and left her in a Salvation Army leprosy hospital, like sort of sanatorium, at the age of 9. They never gone back to visit her. So I know the pain when a child sleeps hungry. I know the pain a patient, like my parents, my mother used to have pains with ulcers, no medical services given.
Elijah found Janjua colony because of the smell under the railway bridge. That's how he knew there were people there. No other way. And then he got down and found them and wept because they're just ordinary people and they've got a disease. Mama. Mama. Yeah. She's one of the favourites. Oh, yes, she is here. Her skin is starting to break down, so she's going to start having lumps come off everywhere now. She's telling her husband off, you know. Doesn't matter how far down they are. This one's a real character. Oh dear. You'll be yelling in your grave, I'm sure of it.
She'll be shouting then.
You know.
She's her daughter. She has come to see her mother. He is the father and
Yeah.
she is mother of her.
I don't know where we get this idea that they're not as upset or anything as us. You know, the daughter's very upset now. She's shocked seeing mother like that. And you'd be foolish if you didn't realise that she's not one for us. Wow, you look lovely. People that go into third world situations, you sort of go with a bit of an idea that, you know, you're going to just like cure everybody and then they'll all live happily ever after. Well, it's not the way it works, and all you're really doing is improving the quality of their life. Papa? No more. He's looking at the next one. No. In the beginning, I wanted people to think I was doing a good thing, you know, and more than that, I wanted my mother to say, I'm really proud of you, you know, and that didn't happen. She was furious because I was going overseas to look after people and I should have been looking after her, and, you know, it was really quite difficult. White man's magic. I look back now and realise I've always liked looking after people. It's just part of me. I don't know where it comes from, but it is part of me, and I'm not happy if I leave a situation and someone is not the best I can leave that situation. When I come home, I usually tell quite a big fib and tell everyone I'm due home like 10 days after I actually got home, because I find I'm not tolerant. And so when I come home and I'm watching the news and some famous person's marriage and it costs $3 million for the wedding breakfast, and I know that's the world and I know you can't change it, but when I first get home that's very, very difficult. But after about 3 or 4 months I'm at target sale like everybody else and I get on with it.
That strength and her compassion for people is a very real emotion consistently. You see any distressing disaster around the world or anything, and she feels it to the inner core because those people need help. That's the way she's built, and it's admirable. But it's also can be an Achilles heel because you can't help them all.
When I'm at home, I really feel like a professional beggar because that's what I do. Raising funds is probably the hardest part of it. I often say that I go back to New Hope to have a rest because it's a continuous thing and it's so necessary to the work. So it's a huge part of my life. Probably 60% of most days I'm tuned in looking to see where there's an opportunity. You know, I'll meet somebody and I sort of find out what they do, and it's awful. It's really awful sometimes. See you, my love.
Okay, Maggie. The scale of the tsunami's great wash of destruction swells by the hour.
India's death toll has now passed 8,500.
Aid agencies fear thousands more may die from disease.
It is fishing communities which are most affected. Hundreds of bodies litter beaches and hundreds more fishermen are still
The
missing.
quake, which was measured at 8.9
on the Richter scale, making it the biggest in 40 years.
Southern India and Sri Lanka are the worst hit.
This is ABC at Breakfast. Maggie Nolan speaking with us about the appeal in Broome today to raise money for the charity, the New Hope Trust, which of course involves the 250 orphans and widows from the recent tsunami tragedy.
Good morning, George. I'm fine and nervous because I really need to make this a success today.
Maggie, the fundraising today is not just for the widows and the orphans of the tsunami tragedy, is it?
Yes, it is.
So you and your helpers today will be shaking the tins in Broome.
Yes, it's got to the stage where people duck a bit when they see me, but it's only going to be 32, George, so I'll be able to stand in the sun and shake my tin. And it's payday, so bring you loose change.
Maggie, thank you, and thank you for all the work over the past 16 years.
Oh, thanks, George.
Okay, anytime. Bye-bye now.
Bye. The generosity of WA people astounded me. I had raised very quickly $48,000 purely for New Hope to work with in the tsunami area. I feel really strongly that the tsunami has opened us up again. Overall, we've become very narrow in Australia. We've become very fearful. We've been made to feel very fearful of anyone who's not from Australia. It's very sad because Australia is made up of refugees and ethnic people, and suddenly people have closed up, bugger the rest of them. I felt that our government and the press were to blame for that. What drew Elijah to the disaster in the first place was a leprosy colony down there. And this colony is about 6 kilometres inland from the beach. And when there is a disaster like that, people in the colony don't go out because quite often people see them as a bad omen and they can be stoned or, pushed. So they just stay in the colony. And they were absolutely staggered when a group of people came to them and said, help us. Well, that was just, it's unheard of. I mean, that has broken down barriers that have been there for thousands of years, truly. And so these poor leprosy patients, they were absolutely, stuck because they'd never been in this position. And so they rang Elijah and said, this has happened, please come. I believe when he got there it was a bit humorous because the leprosy patients were sort of fighting over who was going to do what, They were so happy to be able to be on the other end and be helping other people, And apparently there'd been a few blues and, sort of knocking each other out the way. I'll give the water and, so yeah, there's always a nice part to every story. And that's how we actually got there.
Chapa, what is it? The sea came on us. That's what mainly they are using the expression. It came on us and we are frightened, we ran away. And they said 3 times it came, 3 times it went out. It came and fell on us and people lost their lives. It is too high. They're saying it's very high about the trees and coconut palm trees. They're showing that high and we terrified. Everything went on within 10 minutes. The sea is the God to them. They go and offer prayers and things like that because it gives food to them. They go for fishing. Their husbands are bring back safe. Their children came back safe on the boats and everything. But today, suddenly, the same God came and took their lives. That shocked them.
இப்போ எங்களுக்கு வந்து இப்போ அந்த சுனாமி ஏற்பட்ட பிறகு நாங்கள் தனிமையாக முன்னாடி ஒண்டியும் போய் வளர்த்துடுவோம். எந்த டைமாக இருந்தாலும் வளர்த்துடுவோம், தொழிலுக்கு போயிட்டு வரோம். இப்போ இருந்தாலும் எங்களுக்கு கொஞ்சம் அச்சமாக இருக்குது. ஆனால் பயம் இருக்குது. எப்போ வருமோ நம்ம கடலில் எப்போதும் போல் அந்த பௌர்ணமி அமாவாசை டைமில் தண்ணி கொஞ்சம் ஏறும். அதனால சரி இப்படி தான் இருக்குமோ அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு நாங்கள் இந்த மாதிரி முன்னே எடுத்துருந்தேன்னா சுனாமிக்கு அப்புறம் வந்து இங்கே நாங்கள் வந்து இந்த சாப்பாட்டுக்கெல்லாம் இன்னும் நாங்கள் தொழிலுக்கு எதுவும் போகல. எங்ககிட்ட காசு எதெல்லாம் இடம் கிடையாது. எல்லாம் நாங்கள் வச்சிருந்த துணிமணி எல்லாம் கடலாட எல்லாம் போயிடுச்சு.
When I got there, you know, we were feeding 500 children because a lot of them were orphans or their parents were so busy trying to get their life back together out of this shattered mess that we needed to care for them. There was a lot of displaced people, a lot of trauma and shock where people just did not know where they came from. Sadness. Apart from the feeding program that we're doing, we also wanted to build what we call a transit home. We wanted to have a place that was sort of in a junction where there was a few villages that people could come and we would try and sort it for them. Yeah, here, I like this, where you basically said, you know, in from the thing, but you'll have the house, you have to have toilets. Where are they? We have always had, when we open any land for building, always had a ceremony. Elijah asked them, you know, and they said yes.
Yeah, brother?
Yeah. You're going so slow.
Oh my
Get a
God.
move on.
I don't want you to be my supervisor.
Faster. Then the elders of the town let us know that they wanted to do a full Hindu ceremony. So that was the best time, you know, we could have had. I was married at the age of 20. There were some problems with Mum that, you know, I couldn't really get through. So the only thing I could do was leave. 12 months later I had my son, Robert. We struggled in that marriage and I really think that I was certainly looking for an escape and it just sort of broke down from there. Mum was always talking about my failure. It was my failure that I didn't pass school and got married young and I'd done everything the wrong way. She was pretty critical. After my marriage split up, I had a bit of a breakdown and was in a psychiatric hospital for about 3 months. It didn't seem that I did anything right. Well, what is your name?
Gandhi, madam.
Gandhi? You live here? Our biggest concern with these kids is, sadly, HIV and AIDS. And that's coming about because you will get low life that'll go to the railway station, know that these kids are vulnerable, and they might offer them 40 rupee to just go around the back of the shed for 10 minutes. Now you have to think like a child then, who's got nothing. So the child immediately thinks 10 minutes, nothing, and then I have enough for food and I am eating for 2 weeks. So hard. I don't know what to do. You can't stretch to everything. It's not possible. I hate it when they beg like this. It makes me feel so bad. And it's easy to be objective when you're away, but he's standing here going, please, please, you know. And I'm standing here fully fed, clean. I know I can't do anything about it, but it's hard, you know.
14 hours I traveled by bus.
He really would prefer the money, yes? Because I'd grown up without a father, I was absolutely paranoid that Bob would grow up without a father, and that was sort of the real problem for me. So eventually I'd saved up enough money to go on a cruise, and on that I met my second husband. It was a real shipboard romance. I thought it was really the one, and like, you know, of course you do, otherwise you wouldn't go ahead. But I also could see security there for Bob, and so we got married about 12 months after that. And, you know, it was a mistake before I even got married. I knew there were problems before we got married, but I wanted to ignore that. I just didn't want to fail anymore, you know. I was looking for this, I can be, you know, look, Mum, you know, I've done well. So, and I stayed in that marriage for about 18 years. And was unhappy. By this time in my life, I knew I would go to India. And to my amazement, my husband said I could go. He would allow me to go. Well, I waited another 48 hours before I did anything. You know, I know I'm a grown woman, but if I had done something wrong, he may have punished me by saying you're not going. And of course my mother as well did get ill. Well, I think she got ill. She said she was ill just before I left. And so then I was threatened with, you know, well, I'll probably die while you're in India. So it was pretty difficult. Just before I left, something happened in my marriage. I'd said the wrong thing, and it was a physical abuse, and I was really upset about that. So I decided to go and see a priest and talk to someone who I felt would keep my confidence, because nobody knew that I was in a relationship that was like that. To the outside world, we looked like a very close couple, and I made sure of that. So I went and saw this priest, and he basically said, look, go to India and have your moment and get some compassion in your heart and come back and you just try harder. And I was absolutely devastated by that answer, and, you know, by the time I got on that plane, I really felt that I was pretty much on my own. It was then that I decided that I would have the courage and get out of my marriage. Because from the time I got to India and saw the poverty and saw people who were battling and living on the street, what kept hitting me in the face was the fact that they had no help. They were stuck in their position and they couldn't leave it and they couldn't change it, and yet all of them seemed to either be accepting or, you know, smiled if you helped them. I was bowled over by that, and I thought, well, Maggie, you grab your guts and get out. I mean, you can get social security, you can get counselling, you can get police protection, you can get whatever you need to do this. So stop it, you know, get out and start living your life, because I was going nowhere. Aren't you? Why are you holding your pants up? Are they too big? I think so. Aha, been to the shop? Yeah?
Shop.
Yeah. What'd you get? Oh, lollies. What did you get? Oh, devils. What about me? Sharing? Not that I really like these. I've made a fuss now. Oh, why would you spend the money on these? I've known these two little boys for quite some time, ever since they've been here. These children, parents are dead from HIV, and this one has that problem, but his brother doesn't. So we know perfectly well that when the time comes that the other brother is by himself, he has then got no one. They're really good, beautiful kids, and this is what makes it hard when you're nursing these type of children and caring for them, because if you get too attached then. You're tired? Yeah. Sleepier? You want to have some rest now?
No sleeping.
No sleeping? Small sleeping would be good. For this one anyway, he's tired. Mm? Help, sister. Oh, oh. You just about pulled me right over. Huh? Come on, you go and have a rest. Hmm? Finish now. Bye. Oh, for goodness sake. When a HIV child here gets sick, they seem to pass away very quickly. You know, the first AIDS child here was Sereno. And when I was here last, when I was leaving, I just knew that I wasn't going to see him. Again, it was this strong feeling, and he literally got up into a fetal position and clung, you know. And I think he knew, too. But it didn't make any difference when he died. And I have to get over this, and if I do this with every child, I'm going to be a mess. If you're lucky enough to find your soul partner, and don't ever give up, I tell you, because, you know, I was in my late 40s when I met him. It's fantastic. I'd been on my own for 4 years, and then I met Al through a mutual friend, and we had a couple of dates, and I really liked him, and I liked talking to him, and I liked his sense of humour and everything. But at the same time, I was pulling back as much as I was going forward, because I'd already stuffed it twice, you know. So I'd lost confidence in my own judgment and thought, yeah, you know, you've done this before and you've got it wrong. So I was very, very wary. I said to him, there's a couple of things in my life now that I'm not going to change. I will always be committed to the New Hope Leprosy Trust, and I will be away 2 to 3 months every year. I'm really miserable with my money because I pay my own fare, so, you know, that's how it's going to be. And he said, well, he said, I'll always help you with your fare, sweetheart. And that was it. That's all he had to say. And I know I'm going back to India, so do all my neighbours, because suddenly I'm back out doing exercise and walking everywhere. But it is getting harder, and I'll see how I go going back this time. 12 years ago was a snitch. Unfortunately, you know, I had cancer and lost a lung, and that's really given me a great penalty. I had no idea, and it was just because I was coming to New Hope that I went and had an x-ray, and it was discovered. By the end of that week, my left lung had been removed. It's a huge shock. I was 50 when I got it, and my father was 50 when he got lung cancer and he died. So it was like, oh, here comes the pattern, you know. So it was even harder for me to believe that I was going to get over it, and I was a nurse to boot. So you know too much. I've had time to think about, you know, why did I keep coming back? And in the beginning, I wanted people to think I was doing a good thing. Even though I'd failed school and done all those things, that I was a good person. And I just badly needed people to see that side of me, and particularly my mother. To just, you know, stand up and say, you know, I think you're fantastic and I think you've done a good job. And quite frankly, I think if she'd done that, perhaps I wouldn't have gone on for so many years. I'd have given up after a couple. Ragabari is so remote that the only way that you can get to it is to walk up the mountain and through the pass to that plateau. And there's no way in or out except down this track. And yes, you do have to bring up everything from the last drop of oil to the last packet of matches. You think this one will be easier on me?
Easier.
You sure? Yeah. Bloody liar. Aren't you lying? Are you lying on me?
No, this is very good.
But how far I have to walk up?
It's not high.
It is so. I don't usually... Truly I have not gone this way, honestly.
100 times this way.
No, never, honestly. They've
Yeah?
always taken me that way.
This
Yeah.
way.
I've never gone this way. It's too high for me. You know what's he saying? You should have gone the other way. I bet that's what he
I
said.
am saying you go that side. This is my road.
Wait, now, 1 minute. If I hadn't have had this work with New Hope and this work up here, when I had this cancer, I doubt that I would have made such a good recovery as I have, because I had a real goal, and that was to come back to India. You don't have to rest? No, you just come. You come every day. 4 months after the op, I came back. And my hurry was because I did think that, you know, no one gets away with lung cancer, come on, you know. And as we were coming down, all I could think was, I have done it, you know, I've made it. And I was really pleased with myself. And then all the tribal people were there. And they had drums and they had music and flowers, and it was like something in the movies, you know. And I was extremely emotional because I'd made it. And they were thankful in their own right because I said I'd come back, and I did. Because they had no idea of my personal struggle, and they never will know. There's no need. The first time I went to Ruggaburry, they had never seen a white person before. So staff went up before me and did a tour of these villages to show them the photo of this person called Maggie Sister. And no, I didn't have magic powers, I was just another colour in another country. And that gave the men at least some time to gather their bravery and courage to not run away when I arrived.
People, when they come in these areas, they think we are going to, oh, okay, white-skinned people are coming and they are going to make everybody Christians and make us Christians. Maggie Sister never done that. She is a pure social worker. So where she has been with the people, in the good times, bad times. So that is the reason people accepted her in this valley.
We don't swap a pill for a prayer. And if there had have been any sign of that, I know I wouldn't have stayed part of it because, you know, I say to people when they ask me, you know, why don't you save their souls? And I said, well, you know, if you're going to say to someone who's got a sick kid, you know, if you believe in my God, I'll help you with your child. Well, what are you going to say? Yeah, I believe in your God, you know. It's not the way. To take the scab off, you know. So you think that's mud, not scab? Yeah. She's obviously had a bad burn, and they have covered it with mud. So it's quite a serious wound. Now Elijah is going to try and lift off some of that. So I always get a staff member to do this, and I'll supervise if need be, because otherwise it's too much shock for the kid, seeing a white skin, and then I'm hurting them. Too much, you know, because... Oh,
You are in the area of below poverty line people living here. In India itself, Orissa is the very poorest. I know several years back you have seen many people are selling their children because of they can't afford. So poorest of poor here. Economically the area used to be better. But now lot of changes. The forest is came down. Hills were not covered now. They are all naked almost, the hills. No tigers, no bears. Everything is gone. Everything is killed. People see there is a problem for their children. People see there is a problem for their grandchildren. But the one most important thing today I have to cut the trees and take to the market. Let us see what happens tomorrow. Today we must survive. Infant mortality rate is very high. Due to that, people don't name their children till either 4th year or in 9th year. So because they don't know whether the child is going to be alive or child is going to be dead. And even the children who are blind, the child did not have a name. Everybody is asking what name. She's around almost 8 years to 9 years the child is. No name has been given. Because they don't know whether she will survive or die because she could not see now and what happens to her.
Poor little darling, her eyeball has ruptured and there's no eyeball in the other eye. You know, it really has to come out because you're looking at terrible infection there. And you see there's two things about this. One is the fact that she's a girl, and looking the way she does, she's not going to get married. And we have children in at New Hope who are blind permanently, and they are having a wonderful opportunity in life. And Elijah wants to give her the same. It's the diet that is the biggest problem up here. And if we can just get them to plant some papayas and some, you know, pumpkin and things like that, then their condition will improve.
There is a proverb, if you teach a man, you are teaching one person. If you teach a woman, you are teaching the nation. See, one more thing, the women talk too much. I think you must be knowing that. They also talk. There is a reason New Hope works with women. Women goes together to have a bath in a group. Woman goes to collect the firewood in the hills in a group. So your information goes very fast. The discussion which is useless, you make into useful.
I know it's said all the time, but education, honestly, it is the answer to breaking a poverty cycle. Huh? My goodness. You should see a doctor. Yeah. I love it up here because they love me and it doesn't matter, you know, what's happened to me. They just like me because I'm here. And it's great because, you know, you don't have any of that sort of, oh, I don't know how to explain it, you know, hoping people will like you and all of that stuff. Yeah, show me. Oh, look at you. She couldn't. In the early days, I was up here on my own, and you had a lot of time then to think about your life and what you could have done better and, you know, what you've succeeded in. And I got to like myself up here. Well, I wish I was still this young. Much better. No wrinkles here. Beautiful.
Yes. He told exactly 60.
Yeah? She thinks I look 60?
Yeah. No. Not look 60.
I thought she might say 40.
Earlier she
I am very upset because she looks older than me, doesn't she?
Yeah.
She's a true friend. She tells the truth, huh? Oh, I would never have asked this question if I'd known she was going to say that. What are the photos?
Sorry.
You are worse than a woman, you know? You talk.
I think people very appreciate Maggie in this area. And some of the village they call children Maggie and some of the children Sister.
I've realised now that there is a sort of a destiny part of your life, and I often think maybe I all along have been geared up so that when I got to India I had a practical nursing background. I had a lot of contacts and I understood fundraising, and I had also gone through a lot of heartache in my own life, so I had a compassion that comes from experience. I'm a great believer now in everything is sent for a purpose, and even the worst of things that happen to all of us. Very often there's a good reason behind it. I look for the silver lining now, where I didn't once. I was given the Order of Australia. So you have to go to Government House to receive it. I actually wasn't going to invite my mother, but my son, Bob, said, "Mum, you have to. You've got to take Gran." So Mum came, and after the rah-rah on the stage, I went straight to Mum and leant over her and gave her a kiss. And she said, "Margaret, you look beautiful." And I thought, oh, wow, you know, so I was fighting it, because I thought, don't be a sook now, keep the lid on this girl. And then a bit later, Mum's groping around in her pockets, and Mum smoked till the day she died, and I thought she was going to light up a cigarette in Government House. So I was quite sharp with her and said, what are you doing, She said, I'm looking for something. And I said, well, don't worry about it now, Just have a look when you get home. And she said, no, I want to give you something. And she said, I'm looking for your father's engagement ring to me, and I want you to have it. It's hard, and she said, because he's not here and he would be so proud. So it was great. And, she, perhaps she gave in by then and realised I was never going to stop going, but that was just mighty to me.